Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, Mike Lindell sent me a note yesterday. He has a special for the 6-piece towel set, $25 when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. You'll get the $25 offer on the 6-piece towel set, and I promise you, these will be the most comfortable, the most absorbent towels that you own. mypillow.com, use promo code Joey. Get the 6-piece towel set for just $25. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
For the first time since suspending his presidential campaign, Joe Biden spoke to the nation last night. We have the highlights for you today. With a packed Bojangles Arena early evening yesterday, President Donald Trump took to the stage for his first rally since Joe Biden dropped out of the race, and it's become apparent that Vice President Kamala Harris will be his likely Democrat opponent. I have some response from rally attendees that I'll share with you in a very hot Charlotte yesterday. Peter Doocy with Fox News pressed Karine Jean-Piere to come clean on why she and others have been a part of protecting the president's health issues. It was an interesting exchange. We have that for you as well. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu seeks to bolster U.S. support for his country's fight against Hamas and other Iran-backed armed groups. In a speech to Congress yesterday that sparked some boycotts by some top Democrats and drew thousands of protesters to the Capitol to condemn the war in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis it has created. From the Bojangles Arena in Charlotte, North Carolina, former President Donald Trump repeatedly took aim at Vice President Kamala Harris in his new opponent in the 2024 presidential election. As he returned to the campaign trail yesterday with a stop in a crucial swing state, that of North Carolina, Trump said to the enthusiastic crowd, "Now we have a new victim to defeat, lying Kamala Harris."
But this November, the American people are going to tell her, no thanks, Kamala. You've done a terrible job. You've been terrible at everything you've done. You're ultra-liberal, that we don't want you here. We don't want you anywhere. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired.
And that was just one of a very enthusiastic outburst of applause that the president received yesterday. As we know, Trump is facing a dramatically altered 2024 race in his first rally since Joe Biden's surprising, kind of expected, but nonetheless surprising how abruptly it was on Sunday as he suspended his reelection bid and endorsed Kamala Harris after he had a few minutes to think about it. It wasn't immediate, but very soon after he let the world know that he would not be running again, he rallied behind his vice president. The president's immediate backing of Harris igniting a surge of endorsements of Harris come Monday and Tuesday of this week by Democrat governors, senators, House members, and other party leaders who initially it seemed that they were going to be a bit reluctant to get behind the vice president. But by Monday night, Kamala announced that she had locked up her party's nomination by landing the backing of a majority of the nearly 4,000 delegates who will travel to Chicago to the Democrat National Convention next month. Republican National Committee Chair Michael Whatley says that even though Trump's now facing a new opponent at the top of the Democrat ticket, that the GOP strategy does not change at all, he said. And that's what I heard from a lot of people yesterday who stood out in the 90-plus degree heat in Charlotte literally for hours to get in to hear the president speak. I asked him, what does Kamala Harris being at the top of the ticket for the Democrats mean to Donald Trump? I don't know that I had a single person to tell me yesterday, and I talked to literally hundreds as they were. I got there around 1:30. There was already a huge crowd there, and they opened the doors at 2 o'clock, started letting people in, and literally for the next almost 4 hours, you had a line of people coming in. I don't know what the total capacity of the Bojangles Arena is. I looked it up, and it says that it's 8,600, but that doesn't include the floor, as I understand it. So I don't know how many thousands they can get on the floor, but I'll just say this. I think half of Charlotte was at Bojangles Arena yesterday, and I don't know what the final tally was. I don't know that even the Trump campaign knows what the final tally was, but of all the people that I was able to talk with, they don't think that Kamala Harris changes anything. It's just a different name on the ballot. Chairman Whiteley, one of a number of speakers yesterday, prior to the Trump, of course, said that President Trump and the RNC will relentlessly tie Harris to Biden's policies on border security, fighting inflation, crime, and other top issues in this 2024 election. He argued the Democrats not only have a messenger problem, they have a message problem. And Kamala Harris is doubling down on every single one of Joe Biden's failed policies. It's the Biden-Harris administration, the Biden-Harris campaign, and she is picking up that mantle. And that has to be our message, doesn't it? And that's what I hope that Donald Trump can stay focused on and not start down some rabbit trails of calling names, personal attacks, and that type of thing. And I heard that over and over yesterday, that people want to hear about policy. And they believe that with the success of the 4 years of the Trump administration and the total failure of the almost 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, when Kamala Harris so proudly said this week that she would compare her record against Donald Trump's any day, she doesn't have a record. She has a record of failure. Does she want to talk about border security? How it took her months to get to the southern border, even though she was the so-called southern border czar? You want to talk about Donald Trump building miles and miles of wall and would have completed it had he remained in office, and could have been completed had the Biden administration not literally let millions of dollars of metal wall material rust. Just lie there and rust, refuse to put it up. The American people had already paid for the materials. All we had to do was install it. And Biden was so dead set against proving Donald Trump wrong that we did not need a border wall that he let millions of dollars rust in the heat along our southern border. So is that what Kamala Harris wants to compare? Is that the record she wants to stand on? I hope so. Because the American people, they understand that. I asked people yesterday about the key issues. Every single one of them talked about immigration. Every single one of them talked about inflation. Every single one of them talked about health care. Every single one of them talked about interest rates and how many of them, their mortgage is costing them more now than it did when Donald Trump was in office. Most of them talked about going to the grocery store. Most of them talked about simply not being able to fill up their vehicle all at one time because they can't afford to. Because the average price of gasoline is over $3 a gallon again. It had gotten below $2 a gallon under the Trump administration. Many people said that we want oil independence, energy independence, so that we can get back to affordable energy. As you know, Trump narrowly won North Carolina in 2020. The Democrats see this as an opportunity to flip a state in November, and that's why he's spending so much time and focusing on North Carolina. Bojangles Arena lists an occupancy of 8,600, as I said a minute ago. And boy, was there 8,600 plus enthusiastic, patriotic Americans there yesterday encouraging Donald Trump. As people came in from all parts of the Southeast. I talked to Richard. Richard was one of the many that I talked to. And Richard said that he was there to support the president. And I asked him, that was one of my first questions. Why are you here? Let's listen to Richard as he described very succinctly, I think, what the purpose of yesterday was.
Following President Trump for a long time, I appreciate what he does. I love his passion for this country and his dedication to the Americans. He doesn't have to do this. He does this because he loves this country. I think J.D. Vance is an excellent running mate for President Trump. I just watched his documentary that was made several years ago on Netflix, and what a great story J.D. Vance has, and what another great committed American. Kamala Harris is probably it would naturally be the one you would think to be running against President Trump now that Biden is out. I don't think she's much of a threat. She's going to get a little more of the African American, maybe the female vote, but I think Trump is strong and he's got a great following, and he's going to prevail.
And Richard's right, isn't he? Again, I thought that was very just to the point on why he was out in the heat yesterday, had gotten off of work, had come over to see Donald Trump. The trip by Trump to North Carolina is his second in 2 months. The last time Trump was in North Carolina, he was watching NASCAR just up the road in Concord over Memorial Weekend. The state is one of 7 crucial battlegrounds that decided the 2020 contest and is likely to once again heavily influence the outcome of this year's November general election.
Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Soon going to be 4 years ago that I started my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. I lost 30 pounds pretty quickly, I might add, and I've been able to maintain that for almost 4 years now. It'll be 4 years coming up in July. If this is the year that you have decided that you're going to get healthy, that you're going to lose that weight, that visceral fat that's so damaging around your waist, then now's the time to start. Let me encourage you to make that call today. 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation with PhD Weight Loss and Nutritionist. Boy, am I glad that I met Dr. Ashley Lucas 4 years ago and that she got me on the right path to getting healthy. You're going to be able to do things that you may have thought you'd never be able to do again. Play with the kids, the grandkids, be able to hike and walk and maybe play a full 18-round hole of golf and be able to do it and not get so winded. Because when you take that excess weight off, you're just going to feel better. You're going to be able to focus. You're going to be able to sleep better. Your overall health is just going to be improved. 864-252-4925. Call, set up your initial consultation. Find them online at myphdweightloss.com. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers.
Many of you spoke out yesterday. Again, it was hot. I talked to a lot of people, and I asked if they thought that having Kamala Harris at the top of the Democrat ticket was going to have a big difference, was going to make a big difference in November. Here's what so many of you said.
I still think he's got a pretty good shot against Kamala Harris. I think she's dangerously liberal, and I don't believe that the American voters and the moderates will want her in office.
Honestly, no. She's just like Biden. Yeah, she's not doing anything for this country, honestly. No. So we're here to support Trump.
I think it's a win in November for Trump. Kamala's going to give him a little bit of trouble, but nothing Trump can't handle.
Oh, absolutely. My child could be Kamala, whatever her name is.
I think she's a terrible candidate with a really horrible past, and I think that that's not going to help her, and I hope the Republicans pick on that a lot.
I do. I think the race is going to tighten up. I believe yes, because Kamala is cackling. We don't want no cackling Kamala.
I love that last one, no cackling Kamala. But that was sort of just a sampling of the response that I got from so many people yesterday when I asked, does that change the ticket for November? Love to get your comments as well. Send me a quick text, send me an email, joey@joeyhudson.com. By the way, Democrat strategist David Axelrod says that he believes that Trump is still a pretty substantial favorite, even as excitement builds among Democrats about Kamala Harris's campaign. Asked on Hacks on Tap podcast yesterday, he said, I still rate him, as you know, pretty substantial favorite in this race just because of the electoral challenges. The podcast host lauded President Biden's decision to suspend his campaign. Biden, of course, made that decision known on Sunday. Spoke to the nation last night. We have some highlights of that for you as well. Even though Kamala Harris has secured enough delegates to become the Democrat nomination, according to her campaign, it's not a done deal. It's not absolutely etched in stone that she will be the nominee. There still could be some issues at the Democrat convention. We'll see. President Biden said during his Oval Office address last night that he intended to finish his term as president, saying that over the next 6 months he'll be focused on doing his job as president. Now, he hasn't been focused in the over 3 years he's been in the job, so why do we think he'll be focused now? Biden mentioned the economy, civil rights, political violence, gun violence, climate change, among other things. Honestly, after I listened, and by the way, I listened so you didn't have to, I still didn't quite understand the purpose of a nationwide address, because he did not tell us, unless I missed it, why he actually dropped out, other than he thinks it's time to pass the torch. Well, I agree with that. The time to pass the torch, though, would have been back in the spring or back in the early year during the primary. Rather than running in the primary, why does he suddenly think it's time to pass the torch now? What changed? He also said that he would continue working for Supreme Court reform. So, brace here, because he's probably going to try to do something with executive order. I'm not sure, again, what the purpose of last night's speech was. Biden talked a lot about fluffy stuff, unity, protecting democracy, all the talking points that we are accustomed to hearing from him. Here's a sample.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. And we can never forget that. And I never have. I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. America's going to have to choose between moving forward or backward, between hope and hate, between unity and division. We have to decide, do we still believe in honesty, decency, respect, freedom, justice, and democracy? In this moment, we can see those we disagree with not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. Can we do that? Does character in public life still matter? I believe I know the answer to these questions because I know you, the American people, and I know this. We are a great nation because we are good people.
Again, I guess to sum up his speech, he's passing the torch to a new generation as he attempted to explain his abrupt departure from this 2024 presidential race to Americans for the first time Wednesday night since testing positive last week and going into isolation. Biden said he made this decision after days of soul-searching and agonizing over internal polling that predicted he could lose against Republican Donald Trump in November and drag down fellow Democrats with him. We all knew that. It was Biden's first extended remarks since he made that decision. Biden is the first incumbent president not to seek re-election since 1968, when Lyndon Johnson, under fire for his handling of the Vietnam War, abruptly pulled out of the campaign on March 31st, much earlier than what Joe Biden has. Biden joins James Polk, President James Buchanan, Rutherford B. Hayes, Calvin Coolidge, and Harry Truman as presidents who all decided not to stand for a second elected term. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse,
They treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com.
By the way, before we move on from the president's speech last night, it was reported that President Biden was joined in the Oval Office by multiple family members and staff as he addressed the nation. An official who spoke to the media said that a reception and a viewing party were being held across the White House's state floor for Biden's address. We're told that seated to the president's left, just off camera, were First Lady Jill Biden, his daughter Ashley, her husband Howard Karine, son Hunter, of course, granddaughters Maisie, Finnegan, and Naomi, and grandson Hunter. Senior advisor Mike Donnellan was also seated in the room, as was advisor Steve Ricchetti, standing next to him. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Piere, of course, was there, as was advisor Ben LeBolt, standing in the back of the Oval Office near the portraits of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Franklin Roosevelt, Alexander Hamilton, and Thomas Jefferson. And don't you love whoever wrote this report, how they wanted us to know that Karine Jean-Piere was standing near the portraits of these presidents? I thought, when I was reading this, and it came out over the wire, I thought, why did you have to tell? I mean, it's one thing to say she was in the room, which we'd expect her to be, since she is the press secretary, but why did you need to say that she was standing by the portrait of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and da-da-da-da? Also reported that Ashley Biden had her eyes closed for most of the speech, nodding silently and breathing deeply as her father spoke. At one point, she has reportedly dabbed her eyes with the sleeve of the Olympic-themed shirt that she was wearing. Evidently, it's painful for her to watch her dad mumble as he did last night. Earlier in the day, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Piere held a press briefing for the first time since Joe Biden had announced that he would not be pursuing a second term, and emphasized that his decision was not due to his health. Now, again, it was Joe Biden himself last week who said that about the only thing that would keep him from not running, this was Wednesday of last week when he was in Nevada, was that if some medical condition came up. Literally within a couple of hours, it was announced that he had tested positive for COVID. And then speculation run wild that sometime, Axios actually reported that it was going to be Sunday. It's when he would make the decision and announce his decision to withdraw. So Karine Jean-Pierre holds her afternoon briefing. She had some condolences to the family and friends of Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who passed away, of course, over the weekend. She condemned the killing of Sonia Massey, who was fatally shot by an Illinois sheriff's deputy in her home. And then she addressed her boss's decision to drop out of the presidential race. She read from a letter that Biden issued on Sunday saying, quote, "It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it's been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it's in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down." We've heard it. We've read it multiple times. Jean-Pierre defended the president and denied any notion of him resigning from his current post and proceeded to highlight his accomplishments as she sees them during his term. She said, quote, "We believe in any suggestion of that note is ridiculous. I just laid out what the president has been able to do in almost 4 years, and it's been successful," she said. He's been able to do more than any president has been able to do in 2 terms. Now, that's a big exaggeration, but I guess she believes it. I mean, I don't know how a person could stand there and say something like that and not believe it. I guess she honestly believes that he's accomplished all this stuff. She said he's been able to do more than in one term, and he wants to finish the job that he started and deliver more historic results for the American people. When asked why Biden stepped down and if it was related to his health, Jean-Pierre dodged the question again and deferred to the president's address last evening, suggesting to people that just listen to the president tonight, he's going to answer all these questions for you. When asked if Biden felt bullied by party leadership to leave the race, Jean-Pierre again deferred to Biden's evening speech coming up that he gave last night, saying that his decision to step down was not an easy one to make, but that it was something that he felt that he needed to do. Jean-Pierre said, this is about the country and making, again, a personal, difficult decision, and so I think that speaks for itself. I really do, she said. Now, this was about the time that Jean-Pierre called on Peter Doocy, which was probably a mistake. Doocy pressed the White House press secretary to reveal when she knew that the president was not capable of serving, and Doocy basically accused Karine Jean-Piere of being part of a cover-up of keeping the nation in the dark about the president's true health condition. Here's the exchange.
It would seem that people in this White House knew that President Biden was slipping, and it was hidden from the American people. So who ordered White House officials to cover up a declining president?
I know that that is a narrative that you love, and wait,
10 days.
hold on.
He did a press conference at NATO. I'm in it. There's all these things that I need to finish, and then 10 days later, I'm dropping out.
Okay, wait, you're asking me like multiple questions here. Let me wait. First of all, there's been no cover-up. I want to be very clear about that. I know that's the narrative that you all want. Wait, no, you can't. Okay.
I've been with President Biden for 5 years.
Are you going to let me answer the question?
Would you at least admit that the debate was not just a bad night?
Wait. Can I answer the question?
Yes.
All right. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. To your first question, it is not a cover-up. I know that is the narrative that you all want. It is not. I'm going to say this again, and you're going to hear directly from the president. I hope you listen tonight. I think it's going to be incredibly powerful and important. The Oval Office, presidents, as you know, when they make speeches from the Oval Office, it's because there are important moments that they want to directly make sure that the American people hear from them, and it's obviously going to be done in prime time. I would listen to the president. And then what I will say is that it is not easy making a decision that the president made on Sunday. It is just not. It is not. And as you all reported, it is historic. It is unusual. This is not the norm. And making a decision like that for someone who has been in public service for 54 years, U.S. Senator for 36, President to Vice President to President Obama for 8, and now a first term as president himself. These are not easy decisions to make. They're just not. And so the fact that he was able to make that decision in a selfless way, that's admirable.
Again, and she believes this. Let me tell you what would have been admirable, Jean-Pierre. It would have been admirable if Joe Biden had admitted earlier in the year that he was not capable of running so that his party could go through the nominating process. That's what would have been admirable. Now, again, I don't care what the Democrats do. All I want is for Donald Trump to win in November so that we can start repairing the damage that has been done. But what I don't think we can do is just sit back and let people like Karine Jean-Piere try to convince us that Joe Biden is doing this for the country. No, Joe Biden selfishly continued to run his campaign so that there could not be a competitive Democrat primary so that he would get the nomination. If he truly was interested in doing what was right or best for his party, which is now what he's trying to convince us to do. Again, in his speech last night, what was it, like 13 minutes or so? He doesn't really tell us why, other than this talking point of, well, it's time to pass the torch. The time to pass the torch was a long time ago, because there's a lot of people in the Democrat Party who are saying, and in the Republican Party too, now again, it really doesn't, it's none of our business. none of our business how the Democrats choose their candidate. But actually, I guess it is kind of some of our business because there's a process, and it's called primaries, presidential primaries. Joe Biden did not allow his party to have one. What would have been the admirable thing to do was for Joe Biden to have never even started the process. And then all of these other candidates who had an interest could have run their campaigns, and just like we had in the Republican Party. I mean, we all kind of suspected Donald Trump was ultimately going to receive the party nomination, but Nikki Haley had a chance. Ron DeSantis had a chance. Others had a chance. Tim Scott had a chance, because that's how we do things. That's how we do things. So that's what would have been admirable, Mr. President, is for you to have stepped aside so that your party could have done that. Maybe Robert F. Kennedy Jr. would have had a chance if there'd have been a primary, because, you remember Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was the one who asked for a primary. He wanted to run, even though no one else was willing to step out and challenge Joe Biden. Joe Biden wouldn't do it. Joe Biden wouldn't allow it. So let's not be talking about Joe Biden doing the admirable thing.
Hope you'll join the conversation today. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Send your comments to the Furman Ford text line. You can leave a quick voice message, and your emails are always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. A lot of text messages. We'll get to a few of them here. Susan says, as a prosecutor and attorney general, Kamala Harris has quite a record of locking innocent people up, including putting a man on death row until DNA evidence exonerated him. She also locked people up for doing the same thing she had done, smoking marijuana. Look, I don't think that Kamala Harris is going to get a lot of sympathy from particularly the black community, because a lot of people in the black community remember her as a prosecutor. Now, she's running around the country right now reminding people that she was a prosecutor and claiming, laughing, saying that she knows people like Donald Trump. She basically saying, I know a criminal when I see a criminal. But there are a lot of people out there who are going to remember when Kamala Harris wants to talk about how things are unfair, when she talks about diversity, equity, inclusion, people are going to remember just what a tough prosecutor she was, because she did put a lot of people behind jail, primarily black people. Scott in Toccoa says, yes, Harris raised $100 million in very short order. My question is, what is the breakdown of the donors? 3 to 4 mega donors donating $25 million each is not that impressive. Second random thought, funny how when a politician gets shot, they have hearings and heads will roll till they get to the bottom of it. But random guy gets killed during a crime and all you hear about, crickets. Well, I think the Republicans are going to get to the bottom of what happened in Butler County, Pennsylvania, a couple of weekends ago. And as far as the donors, I'll have to say this, Scott, and I appreciate your text. According to the Democrat Party,
or I guess I should say, according to the Harris presidential campaign, this $100 million came from smaller donations. First off, you can't give $25 million to a presidential campaign. Now, you could do that in a PAC, but this $100 million reportedly was raised by the Harris campaign itself, which there are limits on that. I think it's $2,500 a person, $5,000 a couple. Look, either way, I'm not going to discount the fact that they raised almost $100 million in 24 hours after Kamala Harris was announced that she was going to be the candidate, that she had locked up enough delegates. That's a pretty big task. I think we have to give that to her, if nothing else. Jeff writes, I think they paid most of the people at that rally yesterday. He's talking about Kamala's rally, not the one I'm attending, or I attended last night in Charlotte. He's talking about Kamala getting a large crowd of people. Where was that? I forget where it was. He says, no one likes Kamala. And as far as the money goes, the $200 million there can be one donor just separated. Elon donated $160 million to Trump. Now, again, it's got to be to a PAC. So this $100 million supposedly was raised by the presidential campaign committee itself. But I understand what you're saying there, Jeff. Faye says, well, Joey, I'm still trying to figure out what Biden said. 13 minutes we can never reclaim. You heard the best speech. Hey, Faye, I wish I could explain it to you better than I did as well, because I listened to it as well, and I'm not quite sure what he said either. But I don't know that it really matters. Let me take just a minute to talk with you about my favorite law firm, McCravy, Newland, Sturkey, and Clardy. They have locations throughout the upstate to serve your legal needs. If you're looking for an attorney with a proven track record of settling and trying cases in South Carolina for over 25 years, let me recommend my friends John McCravy, John Newland, Jason Sturkey, and Timothy Clardy. When you need help, you need an attorney who knows South Carolina law and how to get results, and that's exactly what you get when you hire McCravy, Newland, Sturkey, and Clardy Law Firm to be on your legal team. They have decades of experience, of thousands of satisfied customers, a friendly staff, and a location convenient for you. So when you need legal assistance, there's no one better than the team at McCravy, Newland, Sturkey, and Clardy Law Firm. Schedule your free and confidential case evaluation today. Just simply go to McCravyLaw.com, McCravyLaw.com, or you can call 833-245-6565, 833-245-6565. So, yes, the president was speaking last night. Yes, there was a huge rally in Charlotte for President Donald Trump, but that's not the only thing in the news. Of course, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking to a session in the U.S. Congress to bolster support, U.S. support, for his country's fight against Hamas and other Iran-backed armed groups. Again, a speech to the Congress yesterday. It sparked boycotts by some top Democrats who just did not show up. Primarily, the one that would have been sitting behind him, Vice President Kamala Harris, a no-show. Thousands of protesters swamped the Capitol to condemn the war in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis that it's created. With criticism against him rising in Israel too, Netanyahu also portrayed himself as a statesman respected by Israel's most important ally, us, the U.S. It's a bit complicated because Americans, unfortunately, increasingly are divided on their views of Israel. Shouldn't be. I don't know why, but they are. And just the mere fact that Netanyahu was speaking to a joint session of Congress yesterday brought out the worst in some of those people. Tall steel barriers in the Capitol yesterday, security officers deployed on foot, bicycle, dogs all around the buildings and the hallways. Thousands of protesters rallied near the Capitol ahead of Netanyahu's speech, denouncing him as a war criminal, calling for a ceasefire. Police fought with demonstrators trying to block the prime minister's route, trying to keep him from even getting to the Capitol. Now, once there, he received a warm welcome from House Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republican lawmakers who had arranged for the speech to begin with. Speaker Johnson said, "Today and every day, America must stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel." A buddy of mine was set to be in the House gallery to watch Netanyahu's speech. My buddy Tom Trattap, one of the executives with Salem Media, his flight was canceled. Boy, this whole airline thing has been crazy. There's still a lot of flights being canceled. That's a whole issue that maybe we can jump in tomorrow. One of the things that I didn't understand, and I digress slightly here, was that some of the major airlines, Delta particularly, had suspended travel of unaccompanied minors. So you had kids all around the country who had been to camp, who had been visiting grandma and other things. They weren't able to get home because they couldn't fly alone. They were stranded. Again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Netanyahu. I got started down that rabbit hole because my buddy, Tom Trattap, his flight was canceled. So this was going to be just the speech of a lifetime to be able to sit in the House gallery. He was invited by Speaker Johnson, and Tom missed it because he wasn't able to get to Washington. His flight was canceled. Yesterday's appearance made Netanyahu the first foreign leader to address a joint meeting with Congress 4 times, which surpassed Winston Churchill. Again, leading Democrats decided not to attend. Political independent Bernie Sanders boycotted. As I mentioned, the most notable absence was Vice President Kamala Harris, who ordinarily would have been sitting behind him at the podium. She serves as president of the Senate. She claimed that a long-scheduled trip kept her away. The next Democrat in line, Senator Patty Murray of Washington, also declined to attend. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said she would be meeting with families of Israeli victims of Hamas instead. They all had excuses on why they wouldn't be there. Republicans said that the absence of Harris, the new frontrunner for the Democrat nomination for the presidency, was a sign of disloyalty to our ally. Former President Donald Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, said he would also be a no-show for Netanyahu's speech, citing the need to campaign. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that I would not have made a way to be there for that one. They didn't ask me.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way and encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you will be too. Remember, God's got this. He's still in control.